ayes have it. The nomination of Professor IOC Omotayo, PhD, is hereby confirmed as Director General, National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, NIPS, Kuru, Jos Plateau State. Congratulations to him. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected...
Distinguished colleagues, let's take our seats, please. Let's take our seats, please.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the 8th order of the day is the consideration of the report of the Committee on Aviation on the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau Establishment Bill 2022. We have examined this bill and we found that there is a lot of editorial inconsistencies which obey the need for this for editorial work, extensive editorial work to be undertaken. I have drawn the attention of the sponsor of this bill, the Distinguished Senator Smart Ademi, to the issues, and on this score, I would like to move a motion that this annex of this bill so that they can to another legislative day so that to enable the committee to do some editorial work on it. I so move.
Leader, are you suggesting that we stand down to consideration? Leader, are you suggesting that we stand down to consideration until another legislative day?
I'm suggesting that we stand down the consideration of this particular report so that editorial work enable the committee carry out.
What is the Secretary distributing? I hope it's not the report. Huh? Okay, Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that we stand down the consideration of our report on aviation till another legislative day, say aye. Those against any, the ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, the 9th order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal on the Legal Education Consolidation Act, CAP, L10, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, Amendment Bill 2022. The distinguished senators will recall that the bill was referred to the committee on Wednesday, 6 October 2021. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the distinguished Senator Michael Opeyemi Bamidele, Chairman of our committee, to move the motion for the presentation and consideration of the report.
Mr. President, Opeyemi Bamidele, I represent the Ekiti Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, I move that the Senate do receive the presentation as well as consideration of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the Legal Education Consolidation, etc. Act, Amendment Bill 2021. Mr. President, I so move.
Distinguished Senator Francis Alumakena, Edo North, Yashe.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to support the bill ably moved by my friend, Senator Opeyemi, that this bill on Committee on Judiciary and Human Rights Matters be considered as so support.
Thank you. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the Legal Education Consolidation Act, CAP L10, LFN 2004, Amendment Bill 2021, SB 820, say aye. Those against, say nay, the ayes have it. Chairman, may I read the report, please? Chairman, give us an abridged submission or presentation, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the Legal Education Consolidation, etc. Act, Amendment Bill 2021. Mr. President, the Senate at its plenary sitting on Wednesday, 6th October 2021, deliberated on the general principles of the bill for an act to amend the Legal Education Consolidation, etc. Act by establishing the campuses of the Nigerian Law School and for related matters, consequent upon the lead debate presented by the sponsor of the bill, distinguished Senator Smart Adeyemi, representing Kogi West Senatorial District. After extensive deliberations on the bill, the Senate, in its wisdom, referred it to the Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters for further legislative action by Senate Order of Referral dated 11th October 2021, mandating the committee to report back with its recommendations. In summary, Mr. President, the objective of the bill itself was to amend the law establishing the Nigerian Law School way back since 1962 with only one campus, and that was the Lagos campus. And it is important for me to emphasize, for the understanding of our distinguished colleagues, that since that law was enacted in 1962, there had not been any other law amending the provisions. In other words, the additional campuses that were established thereafter by different administrations were only done administratively without any law backing such establishment of additional campuses. So for the first time, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, the Senate, via this bill, is amending the law to accommodate the establishment of additional campuses. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, it should be noted that in line with the committee's resolution to conduct public hearing on this bill, the committee on Monday, 15 November 2021, conducted the public hearing, which attracted a huge turnout of stakeholders. And I am moving, because of time, to our findings and recommendations. And Mr. President, that would be that would be on paragraph 6 on page 9 of the report. Page 9, paragraph 6. Having regard to views canvassed at the public hearing and our subsequent analysis of presentations, we hereby make the following observations and findings. 1, that stakeholders expressed divergent views for and against the passage of the bill. While majority supported its passage with further amendments, a cross-section of them opposed its passage. 2, that whilst acknowledging the basis for the opposition of the bill by some stakeholders, it is imperative to note that the Council of Legal Education is a creation of law. However, the Nigerian Law School is being regulated by the Council by virtue of the powers conferred on it. Therefore, this proposed bill is intended to ensure that creation of additional campuses should be well guided and on need basis, and not at the discretion of certain authorities. 3, that in view of the exponential increase in the number of law school graduates from our universities and even foreign universities, coupled with backlog that existed over the years, this legislative intervention measure is not only apt and timely, but paramount. 4, that without prejudice to the establishment of the law school campus in Port Harcourt, River State, the provision for additional campuses in the 6 geopolitical zones of the Federation in this bill is appropriate, as it has not tampered with the 7 existing campuses established by administrative responsibilities of the Council of Legal Education. 5, that the existing campuses are overstretched and the infrastructures are not enough to accommodate thousands of law students graduating from the universities. 6, that apart from the statutory requirement for the creation of additional campuses, it should be strictly on the basis of need assessment and fulfillment of other indicators, such as convenience and accessibility by lecturers, staff, and students, availability of office, lecture theater, and hostel facilities, proximity to courts and law offices. And 7, that the federal government should, as a matter of priority, provide adequate resources for the infrastructural needs of the law school campuses across the country. Our recommendation. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights, and Legal Matters, to which the bill was referred, having considered same, do hereby recommend Senate do consider and pass the Legal Education Consolidation, etc. Act Amendment Bill 2021 as amended. I so submit, Mr. President. And finally, we wish to use this opportunity to thank the President of the Senate and our distinguished colleagues.
Committee of the Whole, Leader.
Mr. President, I rise to listen the result of the Committee of the Whole that is report. I so moved.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate resolves into Committee of the Whole. Distinguished colleagues, clause 1, there are only three clauses here. Okay. Those in favor that clause 3 as amended stands by to the bill say aye. Those against Senate as service. Leader of the Senate. No, not yet. Sorry. Those in favor that the short title stands by to the bill say aye. Those against Senate as service. Those in favor that the long title on page 1. No, the schedule, sorry. Those in favor that the schedule on page 2. Okay, Senator Brian Lurogbe, Kwara Central.
I don't know. Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I know the correction is on the schedule, but I noticed that we have 6 zones. They put 3 in one zone and 2 in all other zones. And the principle of equity ought to apply. And the one, the Puari is not North Central, that's Abuja. So it means North Central is only having 1 instead of having 2. Abuja is not in any zone in the country. Abuja is a central part. That's my submission. That's my observation. So, and I saw that in South, they put 3 campuses, whereas in other zones, they put 2. Even if it's based on geography and so on, I don't know how the committee is able to arrive at this, Mr. Chairman. In terms of geography, Northwest is very wide, and North Central now is having only 1, not 2. That's my observation.
Okay, the chairman.
That what this bill is seeking to do is actually one, to create, precise again, the only one created by the law establishing the Nigerian Law School was the Lagos campus. Every other one created thereafter was done administratively up until the creation, the establishment of the Port Harcourt campus. So, then 7 campuses. So, the purpose of this bill is now to be able to say each geopolitical zone is being allowed to create a minimum of 2. So, having been in South, already 2 had existed by virtue or by reason of administrative creation. The only one now that is sought to be created through this bill is the third one, which is the one that is going to, which will be the Orogun campus. But 2 should be deemed as having existed by virtue of administrative steps that have been taken. So the 2 things we are trying to do here, really, is 1, to provide a legal basis by virtue of our own legislative action to the action that had even been taken administratively without a place in law. And it's for us to offer that legal protection through this bill, this amendment. And secondly, to now create a basis. So if tomorrow, sir, North Central, is in a position to also create an additional law school, we remember that what we are passing here is in the language of not less than 2. Not less than 2. So there's one in Abuja. One is being proposed for Kogi. So if tomorrow there's a capacity on the part of any of the stakeholders in the North Center to also create, they'll come back and do that. Our own point here is just that you can't just wake up and create a law school, because now there has to be a legal basis for it. So it's for them to case for it as the need arises. Thank you, sir.
It's a difficult one, because for me, I think FCT is not supposed to be part of North Central. That is 1. 2, and without prejudice to having the campuses in FCT and Kogi, the bulk of North Central is left out. If you have someone from Plateau State, he has to come all the way down to Abuja. So if there was a chance for us to say we create an additional one, maybe we take it to Benue or so, just to give a central location where it's going to be easy for students to easily access the place. You leave the Kogi one, that is for North Central. Take out Abuja, FCT, and then create one maybe in Plateau or Benue, somewhere around that. Sorry, the Deputy Chief Whip.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. If you look at the spread in North Central, if you look at Kogi, you are talking about Kogi, Kwara, Niger. That is one leg. And then the other leg is Nasarawa, Benue, and Plateau, where you leave the FCT in the center. So I think if we are to do justice to this issue, I'm from Niger State, and as much as when we talk politics, sometimes we want to, but here in this chamber, we're expected to live above board and to take actions that is nationalistic. Honestly, the right place to take one for the North Central will be Plateau State. In Jos. So I think in line with that, if it is something we can do at this stage, we definitely want to, put forward a motion to say that to make some balance, we should put in the Jos Law Campus to balance the North Central, so that Buhari is taken as the, because it's the unity. That one is central.
No, that's not what I meant. What I meant is Kogi, the bill itself was moved by somebody, sponsored by somebody from Kogi, Senator Smata Demi. So it will only be fair that we leave Kogi's. Yes. Exactly. So I don't know whether at this stage we can do something. Senator Smata Demi.
Mr. President, I want to suggest that I can bring another bill to complete the single one. Like Okwemi said, the essence of this bill is to establish the responsibility of the Parliament in creating law, in making laws. Now this bill is passed, almost passed, going by the public hearing, all these procedures. Even those who came, nobody actually condemned it in the entirety. So we can still come with on that bill to balance up one for North Central. Oh yeah, I think we can still do that.
Leader, I would suggest that we do that surgery within the Senate. We don't have to send this out before we start to bring in another. It may not scale through. So it's better we find out, let's be properly guided on how to amend the bill, this one, so that we reflect that, because it's only fair that that side of North Central. Okay, so the minority leader.
Thank you. I'm a little surprised what we're actually saying. The law says the amendment that is proposed is there shall be established, that is section 2(3), a minimum of 2 campuses in each of the 6 geopolitical zones. And it says that subject to the provision, you go ahead and. So we can't, in modifying this bill, approving here, create something. All that happens is that once we approve this, since it's a minimum, then anybody can come with, in each of, a minimum is what it says. That's what I want to know, exactly what it is we're arguing about.
The minority leader, what we are arguing about is, first of all, we are trying to provide easy access. Easy access. So, if we are trying to provide easy access, and you want to treat each geopolitical zone with a minimum of 2, FCT is not a state. FCT is the Federal Capital Territory, belongs to everyone. Now, take out the FCT from the North Central. Kogi, the one in Kaba, remains there. But because North Central stretches from Jos to Kaba, or from the tip of Benue to the FCT, you can see that the distance is so far. So why can't we add 1 for North Central and take it to Jos? No, but what we are saying at this point, that's why I'm saying we should be properly guided. Because I will advise against this idea of passing this one, and then coming up with another bill to do another. No. I think that will be tedious and unnecessary. Deputy Chief, briefly.
Sir, we are in the committee of the whole. Yes. When we were dealing with the petroleum industry bill, yes, right here we introduced amendment. Yes. When we were dealing with the Electoral Act, Right in this chamber, we've introduced amendment. And we are saying, let me land. All we need to do now is that by virtue of a principle that has been explained, that principle has been explained. And if the principle is sacrosanct, we take Buhari out. Then within that principle, you've not done justice to North Central. So what we are saying, excuse me, no, we need to now come with an amendment. An amendment to read that we are adding Plateau, that is just campus to it. It's an amendment.
Minority leader, minority leader, minority leader, minority leader. You see, just hold on, please. Why I said we should be properly guided is for us to do what is right. And when you have a bill and you take that bill for public hearing, sometimes you come out with something new that's not in the bill originally, isn't it? Because the public or some stakeholders would have said, no, you need to add this or take out this. And the report could reflect additional things, or even removing certain things. There is no bigger or more significant stakeholders than the Senate itself. So I think I will agree with our colleagues who are saying we can do it here right and now. Is that okay? So we can amend it. Somebody should propose the amendment and another person to second it. No, I will give somebody. Senator Ibrahim, you want to chop everything?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, sir. Distinguished colleagues. My amendment is to propose that the Buhari Law Campus, Abuja, will not be part of North Central. It should be left as Federal Capital Territory Campus, Buhari, Abuja. Now, North Central, we have A, Kaba Law School Campus, Kogi State, B, Jos Law School Campus, Jos, Plateau State. That's my amendment, sir.
What did you say?
What I said, sir, is that, one, the first amendment is to say that Federal Capital Territory Law School Campus, Buhari, Abuja, that will not be part of any of the zones. Two, in North Central, A will read Kaba Law School Campus, Kogi State. B, Jos Law School Campus, Plateau State. That's my amendment. That's the amendment I proposed under North Central. Jos Plateau State, yes, sir.
I think that's the amendment. It's all right.
Seconder.
I want someone. I'm looking for a seconder. Aha! The Sulu Senator, Francis Elumekena.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Francis Elumekena, representing the good people of Edo North. I write to second the amendment, ably made by my colleague, that the Jos campus should be added to the North Central zone. I so support.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that clause 3 as amended stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, I rise to move that the chair reports progress.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I say second.
Okay. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate reverse to plenary for the charge report progress, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate in the Committee of the Whole considered the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the Legal Education Consolidation Act Cap L10 LFN 2004 Amendment Bill 2022 and approved as follows. Long title as recommended, Clause 1 to 2 as recommended. Short title as recommended. Schedule 1 as amended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Thank you very much. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the 10th order of the day is the consideration of the report of the Joint Committee on Federal Roads Maintenance Agency, FERMA, Petroleum Downstream, National Planning, on the motion on non-remittance of the 5% user charge pump price on petrol and international vehicles transit charges.
Leader, that's not where we're going. It's supposed to be for third reading. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. As a second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that this bill be now read the third time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act amend the Legal Education Consolidation (ETC) Act by establishing the campuses for the Nigeria Law School and for related matters 2022 SB 820, third reading.
A bill for an act to amend the Legal Education Consolidation (ETC) Act by establishing the campuses for the Nigeria Law School and for related matters 2022, third reading taken, and the bill is hereby passed. Congratulations, Leader of the Senate.
Sir. Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the 10th order of the day is the consideration of the report of the Joint Committee on Federal Roads Maintenance Agency, FERMA, Petroleum Downstream, and National Planning on the motion on non-remittance of the 5% user charge on the pump price of petrol and international vehicle transit charges accruing to Federal Roads Maintenance Agency. Distinguished senators will recall that the report of the Joint Committee was laid on Wednesday, 17th March 2021. Mr. President, we are going to invite distinguished Senator Gasham Bassi, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the Senate to consider the report.
Very distinguished Senator Gasham Henry Bassi, Cross River South.
Thank you, Mr. President. Gasham Bassi, Cross River South. Mr. President, I move the motion that the Senate do consider the report of the Joint Committees on Federal Road Maintenance Agency, FEMA, Petroleum Downstream, and National Planning on the motion on non-remittance of the 5% user charge pump price of petrol and international vehicle transit charge accruing to the Federal Road Maintenance Agency. I so move. Baba second.
Thank you. I need a seconder. Distinguished Senator Gabriel Suswam.
Mr. President, Dr. Gabriel Suswam, I rise to second the motion as moved, heavily moved by Senator Gasham Bassi.
You're welcome back. Distinguished colleagues, those who heard the motion that the Senate do consider the report of the Joint Committee on Federal Roads Maintenance Agency, FEMA, Petroleum Resources Downstream, and National Planning on the motion on non-remittance of the 5% user charge pump price of petroleum and international vehicles transit charges accruing to the Federal Roads Maintenance Agency. Say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Mr. Chairman, please present the report.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senate at its plenary on Tuesday, 15th of October 2019, deliberated on a motion with regards to the deplorable state of Nigeria's federal roads. The motion was sponsored by me. We talked about issues of security on our roads, insecurity on our roads, the negative effect on our economy, and the abysmal funding of FEMA, which is the government agency with the responsibility for the maintenance of our federal roads. the Senate mandated the Joint Committee on Federal Road Maintenance Agency, Petroleum Downstream, and National Planning by order of referral dated Tuesday 15th, 2019 to investigate the non-remittance of the 5% user charge pump price of petrol and international vehicle transit charge accruing to FEMA and other established state road maintenance agency to investigate the non-compliance. The committee received input from all stakeholders, and I will go straight to the committee's findings on page 14 of the report. Number one, arising from the investigation, the committee observed that Section 14 of the FEMA Act of 2007 provided for funding of FEMA through imposing 5% of the oil pump price, and 40% of the accrued funds is yet to be remitted to FEMA. 2, charges on the International Vehicle Transit Charge, as may be determined by the Honorable Minister of Transportation, are yet to be remitted to FEMA since 2007. 3, there was no clarity of purpose towards the implementation of the 5% surcharge as envisaged in the FEMA Amendment Act on the side of the government to ensure its takeoff. The law simply imposes 5% of fuel surcharge without indicating the method or mechanism for its implementation. Finding 4, that Section 14 sub 1I of the Act relating to international vehicle transit charges is yet to be domesticated to any government agency, while the provision of Section 14H is obsolete and should be repealed and reenacted to meet the needs and challenges of modern times. Number 5, that the law is silent on the institution to be responsible for 5% implementation, the administration, accounting of the tax, and also does not provide for penalty for consequences of failure to either collect or remit this tax. Number 6, that the Honorable Minister of Transportation claimed not to be in the know of the obligation of the Ministry of Transport in respect of FEMA Amendment Act, Section 14(1), which provides that the fund of the agency shall consist of international vehicle transit charges as may be determined by the Honorable Minister of Transportation. I'll go to the recommendations on page 16. The recommendation 1, that the Honorable Minister of Works and Housing should liaise with the Honorable Minister of Petroleum Resources on the need to commence the implementation of 5% charge on petroleum, motor spirits, PMS, and automotive gas oil, AGO, otherwise known as diesel, as provided in the FEMA Act of 2007. Recommendation 2 of Petroleum Resources direct the Petroleum Products Pricing Regulatory Agency, PPPRA, to reflect the 5% charge on PMS and AGO in the pricing template. 3, that the Petroleum Pricing Regulatory Agency Act be amended to capture the 5% charge for FEMA in the Petroleum Industry Act as soon as possible. That the Honorable Minister of Petroleum Resources direct the pipeline, the PPMC, to collect the 5% charge on PMS and AGO on behalf of FEMA and remit same to the TSA. 5, that the Honorable Minister of Finance direct the Accountant General of the Federation to credit the account of FEMA with 5% surcharge collected by PPMC on PMS and AGO. 6, that the Honorable Minister of Finance direct the Central Bank of Nigeria to comply by remitting these funds to FEMA. 7,
amend the National Transport Commission Act with particular reference to handling of the IVTC on behalf of FEMA to enable proper implementation by the Ministry of Transportation. 8, that the Honorable Minister of Transport collect the International Vehicle Transit charges and remit to the TSA for onward transmission to FEMA. 9, that the Ministry of Transportation should form a synergy with the Nigerian Customs Service to ease the collection of the IVTC and transmit to the TSA for onward transmission to FEMA. And finally, 10, that the federal government should declare a state of emergency on Nigerian roads. In conclusion, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, on behalf of the members of the joint committees on FEMA, petroleum, downstream sector, and national planning, we wish to express our sincere gratitude to the leadership and the entire Senate for this opportunity given to us to serve in this capacity. It is our desire that the recommendations would be accepted by the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I so move.
Any comments? Yeah, the minority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, and the chairman of the Joint Committee. I have a few questions, and I need you the chairman, to let us give us some answers to those questions. Number one, I noticed from the table that you put on page 9 that the last report on consumption is 2007, I think. If you look on page 7. Page 9, sorry. Which means that whatever report and whatever information you have is totally out of date, because we're in 2022. You didn't even go to 21, 20, and so forth. Which means that maybe consumption levels, which we are looking at here, which will give you what you want as 5% of the fund, may be grossly undervalued. Assuming that we are paying today subsidy on more than 100 million liters a day. 2, when we look at the response of the Ministry of Transport saying they have no idea, but international vehicle charges is being collected from someone. So we wanted to know why you didn't put it here, where or who had been collecting this money and where it has been domiciled. I suspect it must be the customs or immigration or one of them. And with that, I think we can go ahead to commend you for this report and say that implementation of this will help Nigeria to be able to bridge the gap in bad roads in the country. I so submit.
Chairman, do you have any response?
Yes, on the Minister for Transport, we wrote to him, I think, 2 times, and he consistently insisted that he had no knowledge of this part of the law, and he didn't even feel that he had the responsibility for this part of the law. We also wrote to the customs and asked for some clarification, but we didn't seem to get it. It appears that there is a loophole in the lawmaking that allows people to wriggle out. So that was my observation on that. On the consumption, the daily consumption rates, I think that changes every day. So this is just to give a picture of the volume of consumption that we have and a guide, but it is not supposed to be the daily everyday consumption rate is supposed to paint a picture in the report. Thank you.
Okay, from your findings, later I'm coming. From your findings and observation on page 14, in fact, almost all the 5 or 6 have questions. I'm not, it's like nothing like collection has been going on. Like no collections have taken place at all.
Yeah, no collections have been done since we passed the law in 2007. Nothing.
So if nothing was collected, so why would you ask the Minister of Finance to ask the Accountant General to pay money? If there was no collection, which money?
Of the process.
Okay, so you see the point here is you are referring to one minister, Minister of Transport, saying he had no idea about this. Apparently the law has been there lying, prostrate, nobody maybe understood it or nobody wanted to implement it. It means we have to ask a relevant government agency to bring everybody to say this is your responsibility, this is what you're supposed to do. Otherwise, we are going back to square one. Senate Leader.
Exactly, Mr. President. This case is a case of non-implementation of an act of the National Assembly by those who are supposed to have done so much earlier, since 2007. I think the failure here can be a failure of several ministers of works who have been supervising FERMA. Because the moment that act had been signed, what was expected of the bureaucracy and of the leadership of the Ministry of Works and also of FERMA itself is to raise the implementation of that act as an important thing. Instead, they just want to sleep and they relied on federal government paltry allocation from the budget, ignoring the bulk of the area where they can get it. So legislation is a legislation. It's obeying the laws of the land. This money has not been collected. The failure to collect lies with the executive arm of government. So the only thing that we can do now is to draw attention to the relevant authorities to ensure the collection of this as per the Act of the National Assembly. So to me, the important prayer here is to direct the Minister of Works and the Chief Executive of the thing to make a proposal to the Minister of Works to get the Petrol Pricing and Regulatory Agency, now the downstream authority, midstream and downstream authority, to implement this law so that from this year, the collection should be started and then remittance should go normally. If we can be able to get this money to FERMA, I think a lot of the problem that we have been having, or the pothole road, will be I think, of the past, because it's a colossal amount of money. So somewhere, somehow, somebody, refused to implement an act of the National Assembly. So our role as a responsible legislature is to draw the attention of the relevant organs of the executive arm of government of the failure to do this and direct them to ensure that the laws of the land are observed. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I call on the Mr. Senator Abiola, let me make this comment here again. I think because there are so many agencies that are supposed to participate in this, we should pinpoint at one authority to bring everybody together. And I would suggest the SGF, because the Secretary to Government of the Federation, his office is in charge of implementing of government policies and so on and so forth. These recommendations to see if they are doing anything about it and then report back to us so that we are at least aware of any progress that could be made. But I don't think just asking the Minister of Works alone or FEMA, I think there should be someone who we will query or will ask to explain why this thing has not been done. At this moment, maybe we can think of the SGF, or the office of the SGF rather than the minister, so that we are able to get this thing started. Senator Adiola.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to especially thank you for this all-important report which we are considering. Mr. President, I want to liken this particular report to what is happening in Naseni. If you could vividly recollect that the same way that we passed the act setting up Naseni, and also saying that relevant aspect of that act, that certain percentage of fund be paid out of the consolidated revenue fund of the government. Over the years that Naseni have been created, no day have they deducted a dime until this year Appropriation Act, that they are setting aside over 57 billion naira for Naseni. The same thing applicable to this act. This act and this provision has been in the FEMA Act for the last 20-something years. And it has not been implemented for a day. So when I saw the recommendation of the committee directing the Minister of Finance and everything, there is no money anywhere. And as we have rightly directed, that we need to set up a committee with the SGF in the Home of Affairs to rally around, because what this fund tends to achieve, if fully implemented, it will be, we don't need to make any special allocation to FEMA again. They have more funds within their disposal to attend to all the deplorable roles that is crying out for maintenance. So I want to agree with you, sir, that the same way we stood by Naseni to ensure that they start getting their money for science and innovation or whatever they are using it for, we should stand by FEMA and let us get this fund out. The money is there. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Abraham.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues. In fact, the actual problem is not only for FEMA or even Naseni. In fact, even Naseni itself is a culprit to this effect, because they are supposed to be remitting 5% to the Export Promotion Council, and they have never done it. And it is the same problem also we have with aviation, where CNAA is supposed
Distinguished, I think if there are other similar problems that can be brought to our attention, but let's concentrate on this particular one for FEMA. How do you deal with that?
Ministries are being asked to collect this money. And if they collect this money, they will never remit it. So I have been thinking whether it is possible we ask them to remit this money directly to CBN, and CBN will be keeping this money for FEMA, so that FEMA will know how much money it has at the CBN and be collecting that money. Because we will still end up with the same problem. The Minister of Works will be collecting that money on behalf of FEMA, and they will never remit that money. Thank you.
Deputy Minority Whip.
Thank you, Mr. President. What I want to point out here is that there is no problem whatsoever with collection. But what problem we have is problem with implementation. The template, pricing template of the PPRA has already captured that 5%. So it is left for the PPRA to tell us where that 5% went. So it's not problem of collection, but really problem of implementation. That's my point.
Thank you. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think there are two, I agree with everything you've said in terms of coordination and so on, but I think the legislature also has a role to play. And if you look at recommendation 3, that is a very important role. What we discovered was that the law that was setting up the PPPRA, which has probably been repealed now as part of the Petroleum Industry Act, does not capture the 5%. And so the PPPRA at the time kept saying to us that the 5% is not in their law. So there's a need to capture that 5% in their law. Because even though, as Senator Dambaba said, it is in the template, they allocated nothing to it because they say it is not compulsory. So we need to capture that in the law, the 5% in the law in whatever agency, maybe the downstream agency now, that is responsible for this tax, because we are part of that tax. That tax captures the unions, it captures different people, but it does not capture FERMA. So that is extremely important for us. The second thing is the Nigerian Customs Services. We may need to capture it also in their own act, this vehicle tax, so that they know that they have to remit that also to FERMA. I think that is the legislation that we need to do in these chambers, and then subsequently we do the coordination. Thank you, Mr.
Well, this is a new twist. So we are getting another view again, because if it was in the PPPRA Act that they should collect the 5% or is in their template, then it means we need to ask them where is the money they collected.
Administrative, did be in their template, but it was not.
It's not. There is no law. Ah. Which one is your law? FEMA.
PPRA. That's what they kept saying. That was the argument.
That's what we are saying. If it is in the law establishing PPRA, it means PPRA is supposed to be.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I think the point to be understood here is that PPRA has a template. What we need to ask is that in that their template, the various components that makes up their collection, this particular aspect, is it there? I think we need to perhaps, that is the first question we need to find out. If it is there, then what Senator Dambaba is saying is correct, to the effect that it is about implementation. When they collected it, they are supposed to now take that component out and give it to the appropriate beneficiary, which has not been done over the years. So I think we need to now get that fact.
I think we have to start with our own work first in that respect, because our committee on downstream petroleum resources will now have to invite PPPRA to see if they have ever considered that in their template. If they did, it means they must account for the money. If they never did, it means we have to start all over. Because all this we are talking about, if there is no law or there is no template, then it means there was no collection at all. So let's, now we have to task our committee on downstream. I don't know, leader or anyone, what do you think about this?
Mr. President, my own view is that just like you have said, the issue is whether the PPRA has included this particular aspect of the FERMA law in the template, in their pricing template. If they have done so, so it means that they have been collecting the money without remitting. On the other hand, if they have not considered this particular aspect of the FERMA law in their template, the issue is that the fault lies both with FERMA and the supervisory Ministry of Works. Because in the operationalization of the law of FERMA, therefore it should be the responsibility of the Director General of FERMA and the Minister of Works to draw the attention of the PPRA to this law. If they haven't done so since 2007, we can charge them for the responsibility of not taking care of the provisions of the law. So now the issue is, first of all, to invite Works, the Director General of FERMA, and also the people in the downstream authority, particularly that aspect of the PPRA, to sit them down and get proper explanation as to what has been done. So that on the basis of that, we can now find out what has happened and what needs to be done. it is on the basis of the outcome of that investigation that now the second step of what the President of the Senate has said will come in. If they have not implemented the law, then it is important for us to write to the SGF so that he can now convene a round-table conference of all these agencies and direct them to implement the law. These are the issues. But first of all, we have to get these people together so that we know the facts of the matter.
You did that. So what happened?
We've invited the PPPRA, we had meetings with them, we had meetings with the ministers. It's only the Minister of Transport that was unable to come, but he wrote us his position.
PPRA never captured this in their template.
They have a template, they collect the tax, but there is no allocation to FEMA. They allocate to they have about 4 or 5 other people. That they
The point is this 5% is part of their template?
But no allocation because they say that it's not, they don't have to do it. And the unions especially kicked against it, from what I was told. So the template has been there with a blank allocation to FEMA since 2007.
So FEMA's name is there in the template? What is no allocation? They are not the ones to allocate. Once they are charging that money for FEMA, it's not their business. But they collected. No. Let's be specific. Not collect tax. This 5% we are talking about.
No, Mr. President, let's understand, let's be clear. The 5% is part of a tax that is collected on pump price by PPPRA. They collect as part of that pump price tax. So the 5% is part of that tax. Of what?
It's like they collect the tax in bulk and they're supposed to share it to agencies, but they've never given FEMA. And they said they didn't know about the law. We need to do something drastic. Maybe I would suggest that the committees to be presided over by the leader of the Senate should invite all these MDS, all of them. You meet again with them. Huh? So somebody should propose that, please.
Mr. President, I propose that with the leader of the Senate, invite all stakeholders, all key stakeholders, for further clarification on the position of this 5% and, where possible, mandate them to comply with the law.
And of course, we will stand down the consideration of this report so that pending this is seconded by who? Senator Keita.
Thank you, Mr. President. I write to second that we stand down this report to the next election. So move.
Thank you very much. There are two issues here. First, we are stepping down the consideration of this report till another legislative day. And then secondly, the joint committee, now to be led by the leader of the Senate, invite the MDS involved in this to investigate further. Is that the recommendation? Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against any the ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to move that we step down all other items on our today's agenda to another legislative day. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that we stand down the consideration of the remaining items on the order paper till another legislative day. Say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Leader of the Senate, adjourn.
Mr. President, you can close.
Go ahead, we have not escaped extended time.
I move a motion that this Senate do adjourn until tomorrow, the 9th of February 2022 at 10 a.m. prompt.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate do adjourn till tomorrow, Wednesday, the 9th day of February 2022 at 10 a.m. prompt, say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. The Senate is hereby adjourned till tomorrow, Wednesday, the 9th day of February 2022 at 10 a.m. prompt.